I'm Dana Denha, and you're watching FYI. The city's dedication to Mother Earth is more important than ever. With drastic changes we have experienced in the environmental realm from decades of neglect. Learn about life-changing technologies brought to the forefront twice a year during the Green Fair.
It's the mayor's Autumnal Green Fair. There are a lot of nonprofits and I think for-profit vendors who are involved in various aspects of sort of green and sustainable work.
We need to reduce our carbon emissions is kind of the main overarching goal of the A20 plan is to get to community-wide carbon neutrality by 2030.
We provide resources on how to build rain gardens. We do design assistance visits. We'll advise homeowners on how to build a rain garden. And we manage and monitor over 100 gardens, publicly owned gardens here in the county.
One of the easiest changes that you can make is to help improve the environment and help reduce carbon emissions is actually to eat less animal-based food products and eat more plant-based food products.
We empower people to ride their bikes and keep their bikes maintained. Transportation is one of the biggest sectors of carbon emissions. Common Cycle, we're addressing one particular barrier. We basically don't want people to ever be in a position of not riding their bike because it's broken.
So a great way for us to kind of highlight all the organizations. We have collaborators network for the A20 program. That most, if not all, the folks that are here tonight are part of that collaborators network. So it's a really great opportunity for us to get them out and talking to the folks as well and just really engage with the public about everything that we're working on.
Stay tuned, and we'll be back with more in exactly 30 seconds. Ann Arbor is installing solar panels at city-owned buildings and beyond. In 2019, numerous volunteers gathered to make one of our local fire stations a model for sustainability. Adopted in 2012, Ann Arbor's Climate Action Plan aims for a 25% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2025.
It's a joint effort between our University of Michigan student organization, Students for Clean Energy, in partnership with the City of Ann Arbor to install solar panels on the fire station here, Fire Station 6, just near Briarwood Mall.
It's just free clean energy from the sun. So once you pay back those panels, it's all coming through. So I think there's multiple reasons to be really excited about solar panels and renewables in general.
The solar company is also making sure that the source of energy is battery ready. So when they can have a source of storing their overproduced energy, that they can prolong that type of cost efficiency in the future so that they can just continue to tap in to the renewable source rather than the backup from whatever their energy provider is.
Plan on seeing solar panels on more city-owned properties with expectations that residential properties will follow suit.
A major proponent of a solar panel is its visibility to the community and how creating this visualization of clean energy in the future of our economy is like a really important idea and an important message to send amongst the community members to know that this type of solutions exist and they can be readily available to anyone.
The city has merged all water services under one umbrella. Learn more about Ann Arbor Water in this month's City Roundup in 60.
Hi, I'm Brian Steglitz, Manager of Water Treatment Services for the City of Ann Arbor. I'm excited to talk to you today about Ann Arbor Water, the city's new brand for its water utilities. As many of you know, the city provides 3 water utilities: drinking water, stormwater management, and resource recovery or wastewater to its customers. This new brand allows us to combine these three utilities under a single umbrella, which will allow us to communicate to our customers about how these three water services are connected through a single resource, being the Huron River. If you're interested in learning more about our utilities, please come find us on the web at annarborwater.org.
Ann Arbor is dedicated to creating a cleaner, greener world for generations to come. This area continues to be a leader in the field, with residents and businesses joining the fight to save the environment. Now they're even making it a game, with prizes and incentives for those taking part in the Resident Race to Zero Home Energy Challenge. Joining me is Dr. Missy Stultz, Innovations and Sustainability Manager for the City of Ann Arbor. Welcome back to the show, Missy.
Hey, Dana, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Why don't we talk first about, where we're at with those carbon neutrality goals and how this is sort of an assist in that situation.
Yeah, that's right. So as your viewers might know, we have a pretty audacious, aggressive goal of being carbon neutral community-wide by 2030. Good news, bad news. Good news, we're making progress. So we've actually seen about a 20% reduction in our greenhouse gas emissions. So we're tracking in the right direction. Bad news, we still got a lot more to go, but we have a lot of really creative ideas and solutions, and we've seen residents and businesses step up. So we think we're going to hit it.
So talk about, this is, I was reading the press release. It sounds like this Race to Zero challenge has happened maybe one other time before, but I don't know if the Office of Sustainability was involved the first time. But talk about what it is and how it's sort of getting people wanting to do more.
Yeah, so the first time this was run, it was actually in the west part of the state. So they ran it in Holland, sort of as an experiment with their utility there. And it went really well. They had positive feedback. There's a competitive nature in many folk. And so this idea of friendly competition to reduce energy usage, improve comfort, really resonated. And so we heard about this pilot, and I actually had heard about something very comparable about a decade ago when I lived in Massachusetts. A surrounding community was running this, and their local broadcast network, similar to CTN, actually aired the show. And so every week you get to watch these 5 families competing to reduce their energy bill. And I thought this was super fascinating. So fast forward to today, as we were thinking about how are we going to help support our residents with improving comfort, advancing safety, and saving some money. And we thought of this as kind of a fun little challenge to put forward. So the challenge is a 6-month challenge. You can start at any time, and you get a free energy audit or an energy assessment. No one really wants an audit, but you get an assessment of your energy usage, and it identifies opportunities for savings. And then you get tips and tricks on how to actually lower your energy bill. And if you do those, every time you ratchet that score down a little bit by saving some energy, well, you get more green in your pocketbook, of course, but you also start to compete for some pretty great prizes here in the community.
So it doesn't matter when you start. Like you said, it's a 6-month challenge, but we're sort of months into it already at this point. So you could get that. You didn't call it an audit. You changed it. I can't think of the word you said.
Yeah, to an assessment. Yeah,
an assessment. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you're going to automatically get that free assessment regardless of when you start the challenge.
Yeah, so we have a limited number of those assessments, but we do still have a number available. So if you hear this now and you sign up, please do, because chances are pretty likely you're going to get one of those assessments, which are part of the prize. And then in addition, there's different tiers of prizes. If you lose the most or reduce your energy the most, there are prizes for that. But there are also prizes for the person who saves the most water, because it's not just energy, or the person who improves their indoor air quality the most. And then there's a whole bunch of grab bags of prizes, things like a Zingerman's bake class, or a free bike from Common Cycle, or other delicious treats from Zingerman's, who's one of our supporters of the initiative.
So when someone gets an energy assessment at their house, I'm sure you've had one at yours, what happens? What are they looking at?
Good question. So depending on the house itself, most of the time you have what's known as a blower door test, where they do a different pressure inside the building than outside. And what they're looking for is leaks, places where you may not even notice that all of that air you're heating or cooling is going straight outdoors. They're trying to identify ways that you can easily close those gaps. Now, if you have an older home or a home that likely has asbestos, which I do, we can't do a blower door test because you don't want to blow those materials up. So in that case, they tend to go around with thermal imaging cameras. So they're looking for the exact same thing, like cracks in the floor are really common places, by the doors, by the windows. And so they're going around and they're identifying where you kind of are drafty, where you're leaky in your home. And then they're also looking at things like your energy bill, your appliances, to see if a tune-up might be in order, help you save some resources. And when relevant, if an appliance is towards the end of its life, it'll give you some suggestions on what best to replace that with when the time is right, to a much more efficient, kind of affordable system.
I'm assuming most people that live in Ann Arbor have houses that were probably built in like the 60s or earlier. So what are some of the really common things besides sort of like the leaky air situation, which I can attest to? When we first moved into this house, we had a gargantuan window. It was always cold or hot by it. And then we got that window replaced, and it's made a huge difference in like our living space. But I'm sure there's other things that they see that are pretty typical in these houses.
Yeah, well, I know you said other than, but I want to name air sealing is one of the most common and the cheapest things that you can do, is just sealing those gaps, right? But first you have to know they exist. You've got to be able to find them. So you may know that it's drafty, but the thermal cameras will help you identify it. I also want to share, you actually don't just have to do an energy assessment through a contractor. Our library actually lets you check out thermal cameras. So you could get it for yourself. We do it sometimes with scouts and youth, where we show them about energy, and we'll walk them around City Hall and we'll show them where we've got gaps. So they're really fun ways to kind of engage and get more hands-on. We have a great library system. So certainly insulation, sealing gaps. And then there were things like, if you've got leaky windows, sure, people talk a lot about replacing windows, but also things like drapes and having different kinds of curtains that are thicker, right, to help provide some barrier for those the movement of air that's taking place. It's also sometimes wrapping your pipes or doing that tune-up of your equipment to make sure it's running really efficiently, replacing your filters. I forget, and COVID really brought home our air quality, and making sure that those filters are top notch and being replaced at regular intervals. And that'll help, because a clean filter is going to be a much more efficient filter. Aerators for water, right? Making sure that the water that is coming out of the pipe is going to its most effective use and flowing at the right rate, as opposed to maybe not every time you need a total deluge of water coming out. And then there are things like smart devices, a smart thermostat to help control the temperature in your in your home, in your office, whatever it might be. Nighttime temperatures. People are different, but for me, I like it colder at night. I find it better to sleep, and I'm not home during the day as much, so I don't need to be heating my home as we transition into the fall or the winter at the same level I would if I was actually in that home. So having some different controls just help make sure you use the energy that you do use as efficiently and effectively as possible.
Yeah, the nice thing about a digital thermostat, or like the newer ones, is that you can just have them set to, like, I agree with you. I like it colder at night. I'll get really sweaty if it's too hot in there. And so I would
cuddle
rather
up a little bit. The nose is cool.
Yeah, totally. But we have like a house that is like has split ones. So everything's split. Our air conditioning is a split, and our heating is, but the ones, we only have a digital one on the main floor of the house, and then the upstairs are like those old ones with the knob.
The moving.
And I'm like, you never know what the actual temperature is with these things. There's no way of actually knowing. So I think it's like also peace of mind to actually be like, well, it is actually set at the temperature that I want it to be set at, and not some old school like 1960s.
Yeah, and set it and forget it, right?
Yeah.
Like you just set it and you're like, I want my microwave. Yeah.
Yeah. And
so I mean, have to be high tech.
Yeah. And I'm just saying, like, I feel like I know things, but I still, like, our house still needs like those sort of improvements to help us get there. And then you'll get like, your DTE bill and you're like, why is it so high? I don't even know what I was doing this month.
For sure. When we did our energy assessment, one of the things we found out when we bought our house, we knew there was an addition. They never put any insulation in the addition. So we knew this room was drafty. I just assumed because it wasn't good insulation. Turns out there was none of it, right? And so like that was information then we could act on and put insulation in. So that was one of the things that we did from our energy assessment, both in the attic and in certain walls where we were able to do blow-in insulation. So that's a more expensive strategy, but also a very effective, high return on investment strategy. So, you know, you're gonna find kind of easy things to do, really fast things to do, some things that might require a contractor, and some bigger, you know, expense items like replacing a furnace with the heat pump may be a recommendation for you. So you're going to get kind of the whole spectrum as part of this, and you get to decide what's right for you.
So how has participation been so far, and have you seen people make changes?
Yeah, so it has been what I would say is a slow and steady grouping. We had a few folks right out the gate who they were ready to compete. There are definitely competitive folk in the landscape. And then we've had a lot more folk kind of like trickle in. Candidly, part of the thing that we have learned throughout our work is energy efficiency, which is really what we're talking about here. Sort of like the peas and the carrots of energy work. People just don't get as excited about it. So part of the strategy here is to get people really excited, kind of make it more playful and creative for folk. And then they're excited about what they did. They want to do it. And then they tell stories and bring other folk in. So that's part of what we're working on here, which is why we want folks to come in at any point and have a good time. So yes, we have folks competing. We are starting to see behavior change strategies in effect, but don't be overwhelmed. Even if you yourself listening to this are just like, I'm not sure what I could do, come on in. This is a judgment-free zone. It's just like Planet Fitness, judgment-free. And we just want to help you navigate the space.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it, because I think it can be overwhelming sometimes, because I think when you probably get your assessment, there are going to be some things like your windows, for instance, that are always going to be expensive, but then will make a difference in the long run if you can afford to do it. But then you're saying there's like these really little things that really aren't going to affect your pocketbook that you could do that will make a big difference in your life, which I think is an important staple to this aspect.
That's right. And I would point out, this isn't today, but this is not too distant future. The passing of the Inflation Reduction Act that Congress moved through in August has a lot of energy efficiency incentives. There'll be direct dollars that flow from the state. Now, the state hasn't written all of the policies for those dollars, but our office is following them really, really closely. So participate in this challenge. Identify that maybe you do need windows. Maybe today isn't the time to get those windows, but in a few months, we're going to have rebates and incentives to help lower the cost of that improvement. So why not find out what you need to do? Don't feel the pressure to do it all today, but create a plan for how you will, and we'll help make sure that you get as much financial assistance as possible to do that.
And what do they do? Reach out to you guys at the Office of Sustainability, A20? Yeah.
Yep. Easiest thing to do is just join the sustainability listserv that we have, because that's where we push all the information out, which it is true in this particular moment. We do expect it'll be sometime early in 2023. We'll get guidance on these kinds of financial incentives. So if you join our listserv, as soon as we know how to help you get that money, we are going to make sure you know how to get that money.
And what about the whole challenge, the Race to Zero challenge? Do you go on the website, you register? Is it a point situation? You're putting in information as you do it? How does it work?
Good question. So you go to the website, you actually register on the website, then we'll have Green Home Institute will be in touch to help you schedule your energy assessment, which is sort of like your baseline. And then you'll be uploading energy bills. And so we're actually measuring, and water bills, your actual improvement. Are you making a difference? Normalized for weather. So we do a whole bunch of other things to make sure someone in September has a different bill than someone in December. We all know that, depending on our heating and cooling systems. But the data is what speaks. Did you actually reduce usage?
You know, this might be something totally different, but I'm curious about this because I've been seeing these signs all over town, and maybe you know a little bit about it, but there's this whole Ann Arbor power situation where I see these signs all over my neighborhood. Does this have anything to do with the Office of Sustainability, or is this something completely different?
It is different. It doesn't have to do with the office. It is a public movement to explore creating our own municipal utility, electric utility.
Okay. And so that's different from like when people can buy into the solar situation with their neighbors. And okay. Because that was something that I felt personally needed to be cleared up.
Yeah, thank you for asking. And for what it's worth, if people are really interested in learning more about this, Council did just pass a few weeks ago what's known as, well, I call it an energy options analysis, where Council is looking at, or a series of consultants are looking at all of the different pathways that we could take as a community to hit our goal of 100% renewable energy powering the community. And there are a lot of different options available to us, but not every option has the same pros or the same cons. So we have an assessment that's coming out, and we'll be looking at lots of pathways and coming back to the public to start having a really, a really rich, frank conversation about which of these is best for us in this moment in time. So stay tuned. We're going to be talking more, I hope, about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. It's good that you guys are sort of delving into the topic, because I feel like saw those signs and I was like, it felt a little fishy to me. That's just my nature, I guess. Like, I was suspect.
Different approach. Yeah. You know what? To each their own. But here's the ultimate objective. Some way, shape, or form, what the Office of Sustainability and Innovations will figure out is how this community will be powered with clean energy. That is the commitment that we have to the community.
Well, before we go, why don't you tell people, I think they have until the end of this year to be a part of this challenge. Maybe we'll see it again in years to come, but they only have until the end of this year to be a part of the 2022 one. So why should people race to zero?
Oh, racing to zero. What a fabulous way to learn about the strategic opportunities for you to save money, save energy, improve comfort, increase the health of your home, and have a blast here in our community. Be part of the movement. No judgment, judgment-free zone. You get lots of tools, resources, all for free. And you can win a delicious Zingerman's coffee cake. So need I say more?
All right. Well, thank you, Missy, for being on the show again. It's always a pleasure to chat.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I love your background. We just need to say that one more time.
For more on this and other programs, visit a2gov.org/CTN. Visit youtube.com/CTN Ann Arbor to see all that we have to offer. And remember to like, subscribe, and ring that notification. Thanks for watching, and tune in next time to FYI.